Your table is ready. Join 13ABC's Jeff Smith with the decision makers of Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan. This is the Roundtable.
And welcome back. We're going to have 5 good minutes at the very end of the show today, just like we did last week, talking about some of those hot topics out there, including a big change announced this week at Cedar Point for all you coaster enthusiasts as we get closer to Halloween weekends. Thank you so much for spending part of your Sunday here with us now that we are into football season in September. But boy, oh boy, over the last week, we have gotten inundated with more and more stories about how safe or not safe we are when we are using our computers, our laptops, even our cell phones to do any sort of thing out there in this day and age here in 2014. Dave Misko from the Toledo-Lucas County Public Library System joining us. You have the IT know-how we need to get through this story here today, and we are so glad you took some time to join us.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Glad to be here.
Let's talk a little bit about I guess overall, not surprised that we continue to see stories like this. The hackers are not going away, are they?
No, they're not. No,
Why?
they're not.
Why? Why does it continue to happen?
Since 9/11, I think we've taken our emphasis off our computer infrastructure nationally as a nation. Mm-hmm. And now we're seeing us in a position where we're more vulnerable. We've opened ourselves up. They caught us, you know.
Is it wrong to not be comfortable, or is it right to not be comfortable every time you sit down at your computer, laptop? Banking, I want to talk more about that on cell phones in just a minute.
You need to be aware.
Okay.
You really do. You need to be aware of what's going on and how vulnerable we are when we put our personal information online and having it readily accessible. And that's with social media, that's with banking, and whether you're doing that banking in your home, mm-hmm. in a public setting like the public library, any of the area coffee shops, you know, you are opening yourself up for an opportunity for somebody to steal your information.
You are looking day in and day out, one of our great library systems here in Ohio. You guys have been recognized again and again for a number of accolades. IT, one of those areas that people may not think, well, the library, you think old school, going to the library, getting a book, but you guys have revamped yourself, and we have done the stories here on Roundtable here at 13ABC about how the Toledo-Lucas County Public Library System has tried to bring itself up to that cusp of technology that we're all seeing implemented around the world, and you guys are right there, but you have to have a watchful eye with it too.
And we do, and we do. I'm fortunate to work in an environment where my managers and those above me embrace technology, and I can tell all the viewers, the Lucas County residents, that when you come to the library, we have a very strong layer of protection for those that are using our computers and those that bring their computers in, and even their cell phones.
Yeah.
We use a product known as FireEye.
And we're using an iPad this morning, and we hope we're safe in doing so, but we want to show people right here, right now, what you're talking about. This is the website for FireEye. Talk about it.
FireEye is a appliance that we have running in real time. So everything that goes out to the internet is constantly monitored and checked. Is it going to a legitimate site, or is it going to something that's going to strip data? Mm-hmm. It's going to record keystrokes, and if you're doing banking, is it redirecting? So it runs constantly.
Is this at all locations or just downtown?
It is every location at the library.
Okay.
Everybody is safe at every one of our branches. And now, that doesn't prove to be 100% in all cases, but it is a state-of-the-art appliance that is out there. And ironically,
was this a proactive or reactive move for you guys?
This was something that we felt that we're leaving ourselves open because anybody can come into any of our branches with their equipment mm-hmm. and connect to our wireless. I don't know if that individual has antivirus. Are they up to date? Are they using the latest version of the software? Are they open to vulnerabilities? So we had to put something in place that's not intrusive to their own devices, but yet it's protecting the taxpayer's investment.
And as you said, people from all walks of life coming into your facilities to use the computers for all sorts of reasons, and they have the right to do so. But not knowing, having that X factor as to what are they doing on those computers. You guys are using this to make sure that what they're sending out and what's coming back is safe.
That's correct.
Talk a little bit about over the last couple of the year and a half, we have seen data breaches at places like Target. We saw that over the holidays. We have the most recent talking about Home Depot and some of those information thefts that are happening. How is this getting through? Why are we not safe at some of these places using our credit cards of all things?
We're not safe because the technology, the right technology, is not in place. Now, I'll tell you, this is ironic. The Target breach, that could have been prevented. They have FireEye at Target. It was not running the day of the breach.
No kidding.
No kidding.
Now, do you think that somebody knew it wasn't happening, and it could be a myriad of things?
Right,
yeah.
right. The Home Depot breach, again, they're still investigating what's going on there. And of course, Apple recently with some photographs in the iCloud. There's different scenarios in each case, but as individuals, Jeff, we need to protect ourselves. We need to care about number one. That's us. And you know, I have a family. I have young kids. My wife. I want to make sure in my home I'm protected, and the devices that they use are always up to date and running the latest and greatest.
Coming up in our second segment today, we're going to talk a little bit about a story that was done actually from a former 13 ABC Action News employee in Chicago and what some companies are doing to make sure that they are even more safe. You bring up being safe at home, being safe at work, so many different organizations creating a social media identity. And you brought up also what happened with some of the Hollywood A-listers this week, those stories coming out about Jennifer Lawrence, Kate Upton, Justin Verlander, who pitches for the Detroit Tigers, being included in some compromising positions as far as pictures are concerned. Now, shame on those people for putting such stuff out there, for one, but should we feel, or should we be wising up by now that, one, the stuff we put on Facebook, the stuff we put on Twitter is not going away. It is there, and mark me if I'm wrong, but I keep hearing people say, it is there forever. You have created, we talk about carbon footprints, you have created this digital footprint forever, correct?
That's correct. I mean, the moment you post anything to Facebook, there's a watchful eye. So it's there, it's on their servers. You can delete it, but there's a backup, and it's always there. It's like when you send an email, you know, make sure you read through that before you hit send, because once it's out there for a very long time, and it's very difficult to remove things from the internet. Dave
Misko from the Toledo-Lucas County Public Library System. He is a network systems engineer for the library system here in Toledo. Excuse me, Dave. As we get through this, I wanted to bring up to you something that we talked about before we came out here today. Back in 1998, Congress implemented what was called the Digital Millennium Copyright Act that basically created this freewheeling forum, which we've come to know as the internet. And it created a safe harbor clause that absolved websites of any legal liability for virtually all the content posted on their services. So shame on us, we created this, the government created this basically free society, this free digital society. So why are we even covering these stories? It's all legal.
It's legal, but they're protecting themselves. They're protecting the industry, you know, the music industry.
Which is where you said this really got its start.
It did. But we have to protect intellectual property as well. And, you know, they don't want somebody out there taking information or taking a device, tearing it apart, and then, you know, now you're putting the vulnerabilities out there, but it's happening anyway. We can't police everything. The Digital Millennium Copyright Act, it's a very difficult thing to police. They're doing their best. The industry is really seeing the targeting at the music industry, at the motion picture industry. Yeah. That's really where it's at.
We're talking about hacking here on Roundtable today, and I wanted to bring up, you search prevention anywhere on the internet. You do a Google search, a Yahoo search, you name your search engine, but you do a search on there, you get a number of different opinions, a number of different things that people say you can do to protect yourself. I wanted to run through 7 that I found, Dave, and just show people at home, and I wanted you to talk through them as well. When you get those updates, whether you're using a Windows format, Apple format, whatever, when you get those updates that say, take and apply this software update, you should not be wary of doing that. They're saying, this one site I saw, they say, go ahead and implement those. Why? Why is that important?
It's important because there's somebody always working in a way to get through a very common application we're using. For example, the web is full of Flash. YouTube is Flash-based. If you don't update Flash, you're vulnerable to somebody coming through and stealing information. So Adobe, the makers of Flash, will come out with an update that closes holes, prevents new ones, and it's very important. Whether that's the Microsoft applications,
right,
the Adobe applications, keep that software up to date.
Okay, because you should feel comfortable in the fact somebody is doing their job and making
Correct.
sure that you're safer. Let's look at a couple of other those notes, points of interest. Install a firewall. Should you have that already, or some systems don't?
The ones that come with the operating system, they do a good job. There's always something better, but of course you're going to pay for it. Mm-hmm. And you don't always have to pay for something, Jeff. You can get the free stuff. It does just as good a job, and if you're on a budget, that's probably the best way to go.
Okay, a couple of the other things that we wanted to point out to folks: change passwords often. That was one thing I wanted to talk about strongly here today. Is we have been in this era of put your username in, throw in your password, you're in. Should there be more oversight? Should there be more protection there? Should you look for extra passwords?
There's actually a very unique way that banking systems ask you to authenticate in there. Of course, there's the password, but they're also implementing a word or a phrase or something that the first car that you've ever owned. You have to type that in. That guarantees that that's you.
Yeah.
And then your password. Passwords, at least now, today, 12 characters. Upper, lowercase, and special characters as well.
And not some of those run-of-the-mill things that are easy for those hackers to figure out. The rest of our list goes like this. Dave wanted to look at those. Let's show people at home. Add antivirus software, install anti-spyware, adware, delete unknown emails, and always be aware. You've brought that up already. But let's go back to the software and the anti-spyware, adware stuff. You said you don't necessarily have to break the bank to put this stuff on.
No, and the reason why is because a lot of the computers today that you buy from the local stores, they're coming pre-installed and then subscription ready. The free stuff that's out there is just as good. The thing that we as consumers, home users, need to be aware of is the 0-day viruses. Mm-hmm. That's where, if I'm a hacker, I write a virus, I put it out to the internet today, and the McAfee, the Symantec, they're not aware that it's out there until it gets reported. Now I've already infected thousands or hundreds of thousands of computers.
Dave, we've got to take our first break. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, I want to ask you about noticing and seeing some of those attempts at hacking coming in day after day and what you see there at the Toledo-Lucas County Public Library System. Also, on the other side, we're going to talk a little bit about what some companies are doing to break into their own systems to then protect themselves. We'll be right back.